when thinking about what writing is, three things come to mind. The first one is kind of obvious if you think about it for a second, but thinking about something is actually the second thing that I was going to talk about. But the first one is education. And education is something that happens whether we want it to or not. Each time we experience something, that experience gives us an education. When we're little children, we get education from doing really stupid things. Or let me rephrase that. We get educations from things around us that other people might consider to be kind of stupid because, well, they've already experienced it. And very often, it just so happens that once someone experiences something, if for example, we have there was a tack, but I just dropped it on the floor. If we have a tack, and I do have another one, so it's all good, and we are playing with the tack, not the rubber band, but just the tack, most people will know pointy end. See the pointy end right here? Ding, ding, ding. So if we go and stick it against ourselves, it will probably hurt. And so that's an education that we learn pretty quickly. And then, all throughout, childhood, we go through another type of education, which is a school education, which helps us to develop the means to be successful later on in life. But is that the best education for everyone? No, of course not, because everyone works a little bit differently. Everyone has their own concepts and considerations and their own appreciation for what they like and what they don't like. An example would be this thing up here. Some people would look at this picture and say, oh, pretty place. I know exactly where that is, what it looks like. I've done research into the history of the place. Other people might see the tree, like this tree right here, and say, oh, that's a something something tree, and know exactly what it is. Whereas other people might see the little horse down here running in the field and say, okay, I know all about that feeling, and that's kind of what I'm concentrating on. Other people might look at the road and say, oh, well, I've had experience laying asphalt or something, or building a wall, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that everyone's education is different, and everyone has their own experiences that help to kind of define the world around them. And when we become writers, or if we want to become a writer, it's important to get the broadest education that we can get, because it will allow us to step into the shoes of the characters that we're hoping to create, and also to really kind of consider the variations within life. I mean, just like within this one picture, there's a lot of variety, like botanical variety, rock variety, stone variety, the structure of the building itself, the difference between the wall down here and the building of that. And everything is important as far as the whole concept of writing is concerned. Because if we look at that image of the castle, it allows writers to kind of channel their imaginations into a whole lot of different areas, a whole lot of different concepts and conceptualizations. We think of castles, and maybe the first thing that we think about is knights. Or we think of castles, maybe the first thing we think about is a fortress. Or maybe we think of a castle and we think of, man, I really wish I had a McMansion in the suburbs rather than this cold, drafty castle in the middle of, or on this high bluff in the middle of this really beautiful cloudy gray area. Who knows? Because it is a very cloudy gray area. But all of those small details really help to bring the world to life. And really, I think that as a writer, that's I would say probably the most important thing for a writer to do, is to give life to a setting or a conflict or a concept that we've never seen before. And everyone and everything is very complex, and so the more we're able to explore that stuff, the better off we actually will be. And how do we know what works and what doesn't work? Education. Looking at something, looking at a picture of a dog, and knowing what kind of dog it is. Is it a Rottweiler, or is it a German Shepherd? Is it a Labrador Retriever, or is it a hot dog? And for some reason, Dachshund took a second to actually come to me. But each dog has its very own distinct personalities. Some dogs are really outgoing and really friendly. Some dogs are more reserved and conservative, and they're always looking at you like with that look of, should I be barking at you? Should I be running away? What should I be doing? And then there are labs who just want to have a ball in their mouths all the time, or a stick, whatever, ball, stick, and then they'll go running off after it. And it's also knowing the difference between what weather can do to people, what people actually are, and how they react to the different problems around them. Some people might be given a math test, and then they'll bang their head against the wall because they are absolutely terrified of a math test. And so part of the education that I'm talking about is being observant. Who are people? What is the world? What is the locations? What are the locations of the places that we actually are in? Sure, that sounds good. And then it's all about communicating those ideas to the readers themselves. And so then it's just a question of translation. But okay, let me add that onto my list as well. Translation. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to give a couple other ideas or about what the writing process is. And if you are interested in becoming a writer, these are just some things that have really helped me to develop my own style, my own creative writing voice. And it's everything that I do is all about the craft, everything. And it's all about finding ways to better communicate one idea or another. And that first way is, as I said, education, because I'm always looking for new ways. And everyone around me I can learn from. Or let me rephrase that. I'm able to learn from everyone around me, whether depending on like how they actually speak, the difference between like a Bostonian accent and a New York accent, the difference between someone from, say, Colombia, and attitudes and other such things, and Venezuela, two countries that border each other in South America. But each one has a presentation of sorts, not getting into stereotypes or anything, but there is, generally speaking, differences, cultural differences between people from these two different areas. Yeah. But basically, education is not about what you find in books. Education is about what you're willing and able to observe from the life around you. And education is really asking yourself the questions that will enable you to create a better world. Just like with something like this. Like, the world is rich and complex, and if we just say it's a castle on the hill, it leaves out a lot of detail that just wouldn't actually be presented in it. And so education is allowing yourself to look at this picture and seeing the lone tree sitting in the field in front of the stone wall with a filly or colt galloping in the field. And yes, that is a filly or a colt. You can tell by how short the tail actually is. But all of that is stuff that details and other aspects that takes a lot of time to really kind of develop. But in the developing of it, you're able to create a much richer world. And so it's just allowing yourself to see what is all there. Anyway, that's it for me today. On Saturday, I'll get into the next phase of this kind of tutorial kind of thing. But until then, have a good one.